I'm Megan, and I am doing my honors project on the effects of caffeine on heart rate during rest versus submaximal exercise. So I'm going to start out with asking you, have you ever had a time where you're cramming for finals or trying to make a deadline and you're so tired that you need to just grab a coffee or energy drink or maybe a chocolate bar? Has anybody experienced that before? Well, you're not alone because between 80 and 90% of the U.S. citizens consume caffeine on a daily basis, and it's usually about 280 milligrams per day on average, which is comes out to about 2 cups of coffee. So caffeine is a natural occurring stimulant. In its pure form, it's usually a powder that tastes bitter, a white powder, and it's found most commonly in chocolate, energy drinks, coffee, tea, sodas, and migraine or pain medications. This is a chart of different sources of caffeine and the milligrams that are in each. So just to give a gist of what you might have and how many milligrams are in each, I want to put your attention to the bottom, which is this red line Power Rush. A lot of athletes use this as just a boost before they go and exercise, and this small 2.5-ounce bottle has about 350 milligrams, which is about a cup of coffee. So there are things out there that are very concentrated in caffeine, which is crazy. The effects of caffeine on the body it gives the body a physical and mental boost. It stimulates the brain by blocking brain receptors that usually make you tired, so it does the adverse effect of that. And it makes the body release adrenaline, which is the fight or flight hormone. And when adrenaline is released in your body, your pupils will dilate, your airway opens up, your heart beats faster, blood pressure rises, and your muscles tighten up ready for action. A lot of you have probably experienced adrenaline before, whether you're nervous or getting ready to go play a sport or something like that. So. Caffeine addiction is arguably the most widespread addiction in the world. A lot of people don't see it as addiction because it is so common, and the body's dependence on caffeine can start in about as little as 3 days if you have caffeine every single day. And consuming as little as 100 milligrams of caffeine a day, which is about 1 small cup of coffee, can result in withdrawal symptoms in some people. So these are some of the main side effects of caffeine in the body. So you see drowsiness, dizziness, blurred vision, cold sweats, fast heartbeat, like I said, tremors, increased urination. Those are just some of the side effects of caffeine that can do to your body. An example of this is recently in the news. Josh Hamilton, who plays on the Rangers, he drinks a lot of coffee and a lot of energy drinks, and he actually had to be out of games. They pulled him because he started experiencing severe blurriness and loss of balance. So doctors went over it and basically decided that the caffeine was making his vision so blurry and that he was losing his balance because of the caffeine. And so they took him out for a while and made him stop drinking caffeine, and they're telling him to cut down on it. I know that they have released him to play again, but that can be a big side effect and it is very common. So my study is to determine the side effects of caffeine on heartbeat during rest versus submaximal exercise. And some of you might not know what submaximal exercise is. It's basically working out, but you're not working at your physiological maximum. So it's basically a workout that you would do every single day. but not pushing your hardest. The experiment that I'll be doing, I'll be using 20 to 30 subjects, and we're going to run 2 trials. So all of the 20 to 30 subjects will be doing both trials. So the first trial, they'll either get 50% of the subjects will receive a placebo and 50% will receive 5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight in caffeine. And then the second trial, they'll be receiving the opposite. The subjects won't know what they're receiving just so they can't anticipate, oh, I'm getting caffeine, so I'm going to get anxious about this and have my heart rate rise already because you think you're getting caffeine. The subjects will fast. I'll ask them to fast from caffeine for 24 hours prior to the trials, and I'm going to have them log their meals and keep them consistent before each trial. I will also ask them to not eat about a couple hours prior to the trials. What we'll have them do is we'll have them come and we're going to hook them up to heart rate monitors, and we're going to monitor them for a little bit, and then we'll give them the placebo or the caffeine, and then we'll continue monitoring them for an hour. Just that will be our rest, and they'll be sitting, not doing anything, and just monitor their heart rate after they have taken the placebo or the caffeine. And an hour after monitoring, we're going to start a step test. It's going to be a 3-minute step test, and a step test, we're going to put them in the gym, and they're going to step up and down off a bleacher to a metronome, so they'll be paced at a certain pace, so they'll all be going the same pace, and we'll be doing that for 3 minutes, and we'll be continually monitoring their heart rates. Other studies that have been done are mainly on caffeine and endurance. They have shown that caffeine consumption during athletics will increase their performance times in elite distant runners and swimmers, or any endurance long distance sports. Many organizations have bans on caffeine because it enhances athletic performance. And in 2000, the Olympics actually banned the use of caffeine over 600 to 800 milligrams in the day. But the ban was lifted in 2004 because it became too controversial, and there was actually studies that were starting to come out that said that over a certain milligrams that actually will decrease their performance. So, but there has been a lot of studies done on endurance, long distance, and caffeine. My result expectations of my study, there has been very few with submaximal exercise and caffeine. So that's why I decided to do that. And there has been a couple, and those results came out that it actually reduces heart rate during submaximal exercise, which is kind of a weird thing, because you always would think that caffeine raises your heartbeat. One reason that this could happen is because of this equation that your cardiac output equals to your heart rate and times your stroke volume. So if your heart rate's not going up, then it must be your stroke volume that's increasing, that your heart is basically ejecting, it's working better, and it's ejecting more blood from your heart. Why I'm doing this project is because there's so many people in the world that drink caffeine and don't think anything about it. Especially being a college student, you see it all the time, just people having coffee after coffee after coffee, and you don't really realize what's going on in your body, that it's actually affecting your body. There also is not a lot of information on submaximal exercise or caffeine and exercise out there, and I want to publish more information for people to learn and build upon. Also, it's been in the news lately, besides that player that has had to get taken out of the games. This girl was on yesterday or the day before on the news, And she was 14 years old in Riverside, and she died last year because she had 2 monsters in one day. She did have a heart condition, but they're saying the mother is suing Monster, saying that the caffeine toxicity killed her because she had too much caffeine and that they should control it a little bit better. And to end, I have a fun little caffeine myth. The myth is that decaffeinated coffee and tea is caffeine-free, and this is false. Caffeine or decaf coffee and tea still has a small amount of caffeine in it. The decaffeinated process only takes out about 98% of caffeine, so you're actually getting a small amount of caffeine in decaffeinated coffee and tea. Any questions?
Ocean, how are you selecting your subjects?
We're going to be asking for volunteers, probably from optimal health and kinesiology majors first. If we can't get enough with them, then I'm going to open it up to the whole point Loma.
So you're trying to narrow in on this age group, or?
Just basically students. I want a variety of people that drink caffeine on a regular basis, and then also some that maybe don't drink as much.
What do you expect if you have someone that drinks caffeine all the time and then someone that doesn't? Would you expect different? I would think that you would see different results.
It could
how do
be
you compensate for that?
their heart rate could spike a little bit more, or their body could react a little bit more to the caffeine than someone that becomes used to it, because someone that drinks it every day might become used to it more than someone that doesn't drink it very much. So their body might react to it a little bit more, but that's kind of what we're going to try to see, is if their peak heart rate is different than someone that doesn't have it.
I know the slide you showed that had all the side effects.
Mm-hmm.
One of the side effects was drowsiness, but isn't that why that's why people drink it in the first place?
Yeah,
don't
I
understand.
think the drowsiness might be from if they keep drinking caffeine and they're staying awake for all that time, that maybe they need to sleep, and that eventually it might cause drowsiness. But
my guess is that was also has to do with withdrawal from, right? So it's when you're coming off caffeine that you tend to get more drowsy. How does your study overlap, or maybe another would say, how's it similar? How's it different from James Selassie's program or study a couple years ago?
he did more endurance and caffeine. He did VO2 max. So I'm not really looking at the VO2 max, I'm looking more at the heart rate.
Okay.
And I want to compare it to rest. He did do research on at rest and what happens with your heart rate, but he didn't really go into it with his research.
Sure.
So.
Will you be able to tell something about the stroke volume hypothesis you were saying? Even if you don't find a difference in the heart rate, is there any way to measure the stroke volume another way, indirectly or directly? Does that even make sense?
We need to look into that.
Yeah, maybe by research. I mean, like I said, there hasn't been a lot of research done on it, so it's hard to tell.
I don't see how we would do a direct measurement, but an indirect.
By breath, no?
No.
Nothing you can...
Just to follow up on Dr. Mann's comment, James he started out as a cross-country runner, and so they. But what I'm just trying to show is caffeine's used by different athletes for different reasons, and the cross-country people, it helps metabolize fat, and they can use it as energy in long runs, and so they don't use blood sugar, and they can last longer and do some nice things that way. What was interesting was he did a max VO2, which is how efficiently you use oxygen when you're exercising, but it still wasn't necessarily on a long-term thing. So he was kind of even changing those from the long distance to kind of a shorter, and hers is submaximal. And one of the things that stimulated both our thinking was, like on Anderson Cooper, they had a mom, the kid died from, she says, monster and this kind of thing. And the first thing the doctor said when he came on here, we all know that caffeine raises your heart rate. And it doesn't. I mean, we don't think it's going to at submaximal exercise. And so that's not the thing you're looking for. It may be doing other things that you might not want to do, but heart rate may not be the thing until you get to maximum or near maximum.
But it does have that positive effect for distance running.
Oh, yeah.
To a point.
Yeah, well, and then you can become habituated, and that's a whole other thing. I mean, then how much are you just going to keep increasing it and increasing it? And so the deal is, once a week, enjoy that run. It's,
I have a question. Since it's a step test, do you anticipate there being any difference between, because I don't feel like I sub-maximally exercise stepping up and down very often, and I mean, I don't know if there'd ever be a discrepancy in how you normally exercise.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm kind of comparing it when they get their placebo to when they get their caffeine, because like for you, it might not actually raise your heart rate a lot, but you can hopefully see a difference between when you had your caffeine and you didn't. But that is a good point. That's why I'm going to try to get a variety of people. Some who are really fit, and maybe the sub-test doesn't do a whole lot. But
Kinsey, were you referring to you might be a more efficient runner, but the step test you're not efficient, and so it might be different?
I wondered if it would be different if you had someone that was like an endurance runner doing a step test versus maybe a swimmer versus maybe someone that plays soccer. Someone that is physically fit in different areas. And so
that's great. But I think what she has that covered in using them as their own control.
Yeah, as